Hey ladies, this one's for you if you want to know more about your menstrual cycle. On average, a woman has a 28-day cycle. Ovulation usually occurs at day 14. For women who don't know their cycle, this is an exercise for you. When you start to track your cycle, you will call your first day of menstruation day 1. Then you ovulate. This is when your ovaries release an egg for potential fertilization or not. This will happen at day 14 if you have a 28-day cycle. Some women have 29, 30 days, or even 26 or 27 days. So basically, the ovulation is the midpoint of your cycle. If you're trying to fast and work out optimally for your cycle, then keep listening. From day 1 to day 14 of your cycle, this is known as the follicular phase. Day 1 is the first day of your period. Day 14 is the first day of ovulation. So this is the first phase of your cycle. Now this is a time that you want to fast. An easy way to remember this, remember F for fast, F for first phase, follicular phase, fasting. This is the time when your body is the most resilient to stress. So this is the time that you want to go hard on those workouts, try intermittent fasting, or whatever hard means to you, this is when you should do it. This is the time that your body is more close to male physiology. So this is why you really want to work more on the fasting and doing the hardcore workouts, longer fasting times, heavier lifting, whatever that hard looks like to you. During the first phase of your cycle, the follicular phase, this is when you're also more sensitive to carbohydrates, meaning your body is more able to digest and process carbohydrates without having a huge insulin spike. So this is a time that you may want to experiment with a little higher carbohydrate diet, especially because your activity level may be higher. This is a time to make big decisions because your mind is clear in terms of hormonal fluctuations. Especially around day 14, you have really great levels of estrogen and progesterone. So to recap, this is phase 1 of your cycle. This middle mark marks ovulation. This is usually days 1 to 14, and it's called the follicular phase. This black line at the bottom represents testosterone, and as you notice, it can peak a little bit during ovulation. Now, what this means is this is a great time to do muscle building. This is also a time that you're going to feel the most amount of energy, so it's a great time to experiment with longer fasting or different types of fasting. Then we have post-ovulation. This is days 15 through 28. This is the second phase of your cycle, which is also known as the luteal phase. Probably can't see that, but that's okay. It's just kind of to show you the different hormone activity levels at which times throughout your cycle. So again, this is testosterone and it peaks during ovulation. This is progesterone and it goes up and then comes down and goes up and comes down. And then this is the estrogen that peaks and then comes down. So during the luteal phase, this is the time when things start to change for your hormones. So this blue line, which depicts estrogen, starts to go down during the second half of your cycle. And progesterone, which is the red line, starts to go up. Progesterone is catabolic. Now what this means is it's not as great for muscle building as estrogen. So you might notice a little more breakdown of muscle. At this time of your cycle, you are more sensitive to stress. So what does this mean? Your body is not able to handle the same amount of intensity of stress as it did during the follicular phase, which is the first phase of your menstrual cycle. That might mean you feel a little more stressed out, you may not be able to handle the higher intensity workouts, or that longer or more frequent fasting. So this is a time to pull back a little on the fasting and the workouts, especially when you get to the last week of your cycle, which most people know as the PMS time, the post-menstrual syndrome time. That's the late luteal phase. So we're looking at this part of the graph right here. The late luteal phase is when you're gonna feel tired. It's when you're gonna feel more stressed out, especially if you're trying to do more exercise, more workouts, more fasting. It just doesn't work hormonally with your body. So what should we be doing during this time in our cycle? Well, we should be doing things that help to de-stress, like going for nature walks. You can do things like yoga and Pilates, things that really revitalize and boost your energy levels. But things that don't necessarily increase your cortisol load because you're not as good at processing it at this time. So even though many of us feel PMS and want to eat all the chips and cakes and cookies in the world, this is not the best time for eating highly refined carbohydrates. This is the time to eat more fats or satiating foods, things that won't make your glucose and insulin rise like a peak because you are just less hormonally equipped to process simple carbohydrates at this time. Think of the late luteal phase, the second phase of your cycle, as a time to nurture and to take a step back from the hustle and the bustle. You might not want to schedule very high intensity projects or make big decisions at this time, or things that require a lot of work and stress. This is the time of the month that you want to be in restorative mode. Okay, now to summarize, the first phase of your cycle, which is days 1 to 14, is called the follicular phase. Now, I know that most people don't want to work out on the first day of their period, but by day 2 or 3, you should be getting your energy back and hit the gym, go for a walk, go outside and do a fasted workout in nature, use those weights at home, get your body moving because this is the best time to do it. Also, this is the time to do your fasting or take on the more high intensity projects at work or make big decisions. You might want to schedule your life so that you're doing more intensive work at that time. Also, you might want to change your diet so that you're eating more carbohydrates at that time to fuel your workouts, to fuel your fast, to fuel your projects. Then around ovulation, which is in the middle here, about days 10 to 16, if you do follow a 28-day menstrual cycle, you might want to do some heavier lifting. Yes, you might be doing lifting all throughout the month, but more specifically in that time period, because you have the peak of testosterone, it's good to focus on the heaviest lifting that you're going to do at that time because it's the most beneficial. Then the late luteal phase is where you really want to switch into nurture mode. Pull back or even stop intermittent fasting. Do workouts that are much less intense and focus more on revitalizing your body and feeling good. Remember that as you approach day 28, your estrogen and progesterone levels start to decline. So ladies, if you have a lower mood or disturbed sleep right before your period, this is the late luteal phase. And this is likely because progesterone levels are very closely linked to serotonin. And when your serotonin levels are low, you might feel down, you might have disturbed sleep, and you might have low energy. So that happens around the very late luteal phase when the progesterone and estrogen are dropping. You have to understand that during a woman's menstrual cycle, there are many different phases. You can time your life, so what you eat, your intermittent fasting, your exercise, to optimize your life and be more in sync with your cycle. This is where women differ from men, where men just have this steady hormone levels throughout the month, but us as women, we are going through hormonal fluctuations with our body all through the month, every month. So it's really important for us to understand our bodies as women. And I know for myself, up until not too long ago, I didn't even know what my cycle was, what day 1 was, when I'm ovulating. And when I decided to finally take an interest in educating myself about it, I was like, okay, that makes so much sense. Why I'm tired at this time, why I have so many cravings at this time when I'm ovulating. And it's really, really empowering to know this for yourself as a woman. So I really hope that this was helpful for you today and you learned something from this, and hopefully you can get on a schedule that's going to optimize your health when you get into the flow of learning your cycle and when it's the best time to do certain things for your body. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!